Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News is an offering of the Compliance Podcast Network. July 9, 2019, the Who You Gonna Call edition. First up, the UK Data Protection Regulator, the ICO, has proposed a approximately $230 million fine against British Airways for a cyber incident notified to the ICO by BA in September 2018. It involved website traffic being diverted to a fraudulent site where the rogue party harvested the customer's data, and approximately 500,000 customers were compromised in this incident. It's believed to have begun in June 2018, and obviously the question is, why didn't BA report this earlier? Nevertheless, it makes this the largest proposed fine in the United Kingdom. Most interestingly, the CEO of BA really struck back in a what can only be termed a tone-deaf press release by saying that there was no evidence of any of the data compromised being misused and that the ICO had overestimated the breach. Apparently, he didn't understand that this is a strict liability law. Nevertheless, proposed fine. There'll be comment by both BA and other UK regulators as the ICO is the lead regulator. We will definitely watch it, and Jonathan Armstrong and I will have a podcast out on it Thursday. Next up, Carnival Corp is hiring its first chief compliance officer. Amazingly enough, the company's never had this position before, and of course that would speak to what they thought of compliance. But after a court order where they paid a $20 million additional settlement based upon their continued violation of their prior DPA, the Miami-based company has now indicated it will be hiring a chief compliance officer, and it's going to this chief compliance officer will have a bigger role as the company attempts to strengthen and consolidate its control across literally a patchwork of companies stitched together through 3 decades of operations. So whoever has that job, certainly we wish them well going forward. Next up from the Wall Street Journal, Linda Lacewell is the new regulator at the New York State Department of Financial Services. This is the New York State agency which regulates financial institutions, banks, and insurance companies in the state of New York. And with that role, they are probably the top state regulator. And the new head of the agency has indicated that she believes her role is to consumer protection and ensure data privacy. Certainly a very different role than the U.S. government, at least this administration thinks, around consumer protection. And finally, in today's lead story is who answers 911? Well, the answer, of course, is the police and or emergency services. Well, Starbucks has finally apologized for having thrown out 6 police officers who were drinking coffee in a Starbucks shop. They had paid for their orders and were sitting down and drinking them, and apparently a customer felt uncomfortable by the presence of uniformed police in a Starbucks, and the manager asked them to leave. I frankly cannot think of any worse behavior by a company than to actually throw police out of a store where they had actually paid for something. So you have to wonder who Starbucks think is going to answer the phone if there's a robbery there going forward. Finally, at least Starbucks did apologize, so I suppose that's something positive, but this is just mind-boggling that they would toss police out of a Starbucks for drinking coffee after having paid for it. Finally, a new podcast has appeared on the Compliance Podcast Network, The Integrity Factor, with AP Calpaldo and Marcia Weldon. Check it out on the Compliance Podcast Network. The Compliance Podcast Network is a proud member of C-Suite Radio.